So, where are we and what are we doing? Well, one of the comments on one of my latest videos was about tents, and I sort of need a tent because this server's had a bit of a fanny attack and we've lost our tents. 3 weeks work by 3 people, and there's a tent. First thing is, how big is a tent? I think it's 3 unless someone's changed it. Let's find out. Scroll over, take tent. Let's have a look at our inventory. And yes, it's 3 slots. Tents are big. Now, I could really do with some of that food, but I've now got a sodding great tent in my backpack, so I don't actually have much in the way of room. So it's down to tent placement. Let's quickly check. I don't think that's any ammunition I need. Sorry, I only have 1 clip for this pistol, which is a little annoying. But we'll have a little chat about tent placement. Where's a good place to put a tent? Where isn't a good place to put a tent? Okay, then we'll leave it there till I come back in a second. So, okay, tent placement. Where do you put a tent? And this is a, you know, fairly serious, because what happens is that if you put a tent into it, once it's found by someone else, it'll get raided and lose all your hard work. There's also the question of why you actually need a tent. And in some regards, maybe you don't. There was a period where the game was bugged out and you couldn't use tents properly, so we all sort of learned to live without them. What I use tents for, and me, Gaddo and Pip use tents for, is basically to put all our extra loot. It allows you to build up a larger stock. Also, you can fill it with some of the harder to find items like, you know, compass, box of matches, those survival items that you're going to need when you're fresh off the beach if you've been killed. For instance, look at my kit level. Pretty good, yeah? I died 2 days ago. Where did I get all this kit? From one of my tents. You don't find that backpack just anywhere. So, tent placement. Now you're wondering why what I'm doing. I'm in Bergino. What I'm doing back here? Well, it's basically because I'm going to reveal one of my tent locations. I don't use this one very much anymore because about a month or so back I had 2 tents here. They were full of gear, and some people found me, bust through that door, that fence with a car, and shot me dead. I had a motorcycle, 2 tents full of kit. Why is this a good place? Well, it's unexpected. Most people put tents down out the bushes, out in the backwoods. To have a tent in a town, fairly unusual, but it's a good place to be. Now, in this tent there's going to be absolutely bugger all. Oh, there's 1 soda can. Now this is strange. I think this is bugged out. What's happened is that soda can was in here yesterday. I took it out. The server has restarted, and guess what? The soda can's back in there. So you can use this. You go to your tent, you despawn. So the next time you start up, you come to your tent, and look, there's a pub there. There's a supermarket 200 meters away, 300 meters away. There's a hospital. No one will come here unless they intend to come here, or they'll stumble across it. You also notice that it's partially clipped into the wall. You can clip them in a little further, and that, I suppose, is my primary way of hiding tents. So in a place like Bergino, there's a place like that. What have we got? Nothing interesting. And there are other places around here. Gaddo kept a tent here for a while. in there. It depends a lot of whether or not people are playing in third person as well, because if everybody plays... When I first started playing this game, I always played on a hardcore server where everybody went everywhere in first person. So high fences you can't see over, but in third person you can see over fences. So maybe it's not such a great place. That's fun and games. The wife's just informed me that apparently it's snowing. That's fairly rare where I live. I live right on the south coast in Portsmouth. It doesn't snow that often here. So, yes, you can place a tent in a town. They don't always have to be out in the woods. I have found other people's tents loads and loads and loads and loads of times. When the game very first started, everyone wanted to put them in the woods, discovered you couldn't put a tent on a slope, and so they'd put them right at the very tops of hills. Not such a good place to put a tent. Very top of a hill. But, you know, you can't put it in there, it'll be spotted. Other places where I suggest you don't put a tent is when you look at the map, you've got places that have names. Not necessarily good places for tents. They're places people go. Don't want to put them in the bottom of pine trees because that will often make them not work. But a good place for them is rocks. And that's probably the best place to put a tent, is in a rock. So we'll see what... I don't think there's many rocks in this area, but I'll try and show you what I... Oh, good grief. Bloody zombies. I'll try and show you what I mean. I'm not sure whether or not you can put them in piles of debris. That might be an interesting place. Let's get rid of this guy. And yeah, let's see if I can find a suitable place to put a tent. Talk to you in a minute. Interesting places to find tents. In amongst that lot, I've seen tents there before. I'm being chased by a small horde at the moment. I hate these gates. Oh, that's not... I didn't want a pistol. I wanted to open the gate. Let's get rid of these guys. So yes, I found them in there. So it's a case of putting them sort of inside other objects. Let's leave it there for a sec. I'm playing at the minute. I still haven't found anywhere decent for a tent. So thinking of locations. This is too open. Your tent is going to be spotted, but it is close to high resource area, you know? You can have some fun with it. Now you see that dense woodland there. It looks pretty good, but do you see how sparse it is when you actually look at it from a distance? Tent would actually spot up a mile away from that. But you sort of cluster it in. But you've got to bear in mind, not everybody has their settings the same, so the game may not look the same to you as it does to somebody else. So, and also the thing of distance. I'm looking at a distance and the game looks quite different. I tell you what, it is quite a reasonable place. Do you see these parts of the harbour? Over the edge, I've put tents down there that have never been discovered. So that's like out on that spit of land, and then down into the defilade the other side just before you get to the water. Sometimes you can pitch a tent on that little slope there. That can be quite a good place because there's no reason for anyone to go there. But where I've put my marker is going to be a good place to put a tent, because we're going to find somewhere there. Up in this northeastern part of the map, it's unusual, the geology is unusual, there are lots of rocks, and I'm going to show you about hiding tents in rocks. So here we go, rocks, and big rocks. It's a good place to put a tent. By the same token, it's a good place to go look for other people's tents. I'm finally spotting around rocks. These ones are quite enormous. But you look around them, and what you're looking for is somebody else's tent. I wonder if we'll find one. I know there are some up and around this area. But you can put your tent, nice way of doing it would be here, because it's sort of semi-masked by this bush. That would be a reasonable place for a tent. And you'd be surprised how much... Ooh, in there, that would be a nice place for a tent. But is this part of the map a nice place for a tent? You see, we've got a water source over here. Reasonable. We've got really, the whole Bergino and north to the docks is a very rich area for loot. A little bit of military comes in here at the football field. We've got lots of industrial. We've got blocks of flats, which I think are here. We have blocks of flats here and a supermarket. We have a supermarket, a pub and a hospital. Agricultural. It's all in this area. It's not bad. But that's quite a long run, because if you're going to despawn here every time, run in, collect, come back, dump your kit. But then you're not far from the airstrip, are you? With its military. And Krasnostav with its supermarket. Somewhere in this general area, not a bad place to be. You do tend to get quite a few bits of people up here. Very often you'll find boats up and around here. Where not to put it is out in the wasteland. I don't know about every other server, but most server admins patrol the wasteland and delete anything you put out in this area. Now, there was another way of hiding your tent, and that was to put it underwater. Now, I'm not sure if that bug has been fixed, but there was a bug that allowed you to walk underwater if the ground was shallow enough. That would be a nice place for a tent, all hidden by these bushes. Heck, I've got to go first person and actually see. What a cool place for a tent. Big bush. Big rock. Someone would really have to be looking to find a tent in there, wouldn't they? Now, this business of doing it underwater, that was a common thing, to the point where I just started every time I saw a pond I would walk into it just to see whether or not it could be done. By the way, with rocks, it doesn't have to be these big ones. Little rocks. You could put a tent here. I'd prefer the ground to be more level. So yeah, what you'd do is you'd go to a pond and basically walk in, crouched. And as you walked in crouched, you'd actually go under the water. And some ponds, in particular, let me find it for you. Where is it? Where's Prud? There's Prud. On this server for a very long time, in the middle of the Prud pond was a tent, and it had such lovely kit in it. Someone obviously spent a lot of time going down to Starry, going across to the airfield, back to Prud. In the middle was a tent. Now, I don't know whether or not with this latest lot of patches that bug has been fixed. I'd like to think it had been. Watch out for cliffs. That would break your leg. Ooh, that's steep. Have a look down there. Odd little nooks and crannies and crevices within. You've got to watch out for things that are too steep. But that would be a good place for a tent, wouldn't it? No one's going to see that. Except for people like me who go looking for it. and I'll show you. I'm basically doing this because I'm hoping to find somebody else's tent, because I know Gaddo and I were here a little while ago and actually came across somebody else's tent. Half into the keeping a look around. Half into the rock face. Again, watch out for that slope. That'll break your legs. There aren't many places on this map where slopes are steep enough to actually hurt you. On other maps, particularly custom-made maps made by private people, you know, not Bohemian Interactive, it's not uncommon to come across slopes that can hurt you. It's something that Bohemian Interactive doesn't normally put into their things. Could you hide a tent in there? Not really. So let's go have a go at hiding a tent. Is that suitable? Not really. Desperately trying to find a good enough rock to hide a tent in. Got all this lovely terrain. You can see here that there should really be a stream. It's one of the features of Arma, is Arma doesn't do running water. It does standing water, but it doesn't do running water. So you're looking for a fairly flat and level place, because the tent is going to be sat on the ground. The rock is over it. Now it's just fairly flat and level. Big and rock. Okay, let's go for tent placement. Walk up to it. No, hang on, I want us to do this standing up. Walk up to it. So I'm right up to it, yeah? Hang on, I will hit the right buttons in the right order at some point. You step back a little bit. And then, gear, right click, pitch tent. This used to be an absolute bugger, absolute nightmare within the game to pitch tents before. And here we go. We have our tent. Half stuck into the... Now, it's a little too visible, because anyone running this way will see it. This is why you want to pick a rock that is reasonably flat and has a bush in front of it, and then pitch your tent. But you can't see it any other way. One of the issues with the multiple server restarts that happen so much these days is that, you see, I get the option to pack tent. Oh yeah, that's the thing. If I packed that tent now, I wouldn't be able to retrieve it because the tent would be inside the rock. Once the server has restarted, you no longer get the option to pack the tent. Just as a word of warning to you. So, the uses of tents, you can use it for shuffling your stuff about. I've actually only got one can of drink. So I've actually put that can of drink into the tent. So it's very it makes inventory control a lot simpler, because you can pop things into tents. It gives you that third hand, if you like, for moving things around. The other issue is, obviously you can put things. So, you know, I'm quite happily moving things around. I suppose I better leave something in this tent for somebody at some point in the future, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not coming back to it. I don't need that, so that can go. But there you go, that's placing tents. Rocks are probably the best place for them. If this is a pretty good location, would have been better if there'd been a big bush in front to hide it. I've had tents so hidden that all you can see is that very, very top bit, and then it's a case of aiming at it with your weapon and then scroll wheeling. You see? Now I can get into the tent. So there we go, tent placement. Oops. Sometimes when the servers restart, they will place the tent in a very slightly different position. And I don't mean by much, I mean by a few centimetres. But of course, if your tent is so well buried into an object that getting to it is tricky, that couple of inches might make it even more tricky. I think there's a problem on this server right now with tents. I've got a sneaky feeling that won't be there when we come back. So that's just a case of me dropping a tent down to show you guys tents. I'll not be putting anything in it. You see, it is quite visible. If there'd been a bush in front of that rock, that would have been a spot-on place for a tent. Whether this place is a good place for a tent, where are we? I'm trying to remember. Hang on, oops, let's zoom out. We are up around here somewhere. I think we're actually... we're about here, I think. How far am I off? How far? I'm 400 metres off, I'm bloody miles away. How about now? 200 metres. This is how you find yourself, guys. General map reading skills. 138. Well, yeah, we're roughly here. So, yeah. Looking at the map, is this a good place? Well, we're close to the airstrip. We're close to a supermarket. We're quite a long way from this area. So, you want to have a look. You want to find an area that you want to be happy playing in. Somewhere where you can find the kit you want to find and do the things you want to do. And place your tent. I think that's just about covered it for tent placement. Good places, bad places. Where to look for other people's tents. Tops of hills. Good place for a tent, to find a tent at the top of a hill. Also, places on the map which have names. So looking at the map, places with names are a good place to find it. Also, I've found maps placed, tents placed directly on one of these crosshairs, so that people can find it each time. There was a map though in and around here. I found a very nice tent full of lots of gear. So, yeah. Rocks are probably the best place for tents. Tops of hills are rubbish. Open woodland is rubbish. Buried into the bottom of a tree, that's also rubbish because they stopped working. Big rocky out places like this are pretty cool though, but we're quite a long way away from anything. And in town, surprisingly, in towns. I mean, obviously not Bergina, sorry, not in Electro or Cherno. There's so much foot traffic through those places. But don't discount putting tents in places in town, because you can put and keep them secret for quite a long time. What the good etiquette is with tents, I think it's a case of even me, who plays as a hero, I'll happily raid other people's tents. You know, sometimes I put things in them. I mean, I can remember one time Gaddo and I spent a good half an hour filling someone's tent up with tin cans. We thought it was funny. I don't know if he did. But, you know, there's things that can be done. Fun that can be had. Put gear in, re-kit yourself, and get sorted. Anyway, I think I'll wrap this one up. Otherwise it's just me rambling on. Well, yeah, they're always rambling on, but more than usual, I guess. So I will call it a day on that one. Placing tents. Didn't actually cover where you find tents. Tents primarily are found in supermarkets. Should have covered that, where to find a tent. Mind you, in fact, I started the video with being in a supermarket and there was a tent on the ground. So, yeah. Tents, You find them in supermarkets. I can't remember how many items they hold. This is another problem when a tent becomes too full. It starts spitting items out onto the ground around it. And obviously a tent is only on the server you're on. God, I forgot to mention that. Tents are specific to the server you're on. So if you go to a different server, there's no point turning up to try and put your stuff in your tent, because of course it's not going to be there. Tents are server specific, as opposed to the items on your body where you can go from server to server, assuming you're not going to Hive servers. So yeah, tents stay on the server you're on. So again, you want to start making use of tents, find a regular server, which is what I tend to do. I found a server, there's a nice bunch of people here. They know me, I know them, and you chat, nice chats with people and stuff, which is good. So yes, once you've found a server you like, then you can start using tents. There's little or no point putting things in tents, building up the stock, if you're not going to be returning to it. So yes, obviously tents. Actually, I'll put my marker down while I chat, because no, where are we? Clem, where's Clem gone? Oh, Krasner stuff. Yeah, I want to go to the supermarket. Since the changes is you need to. I find I'm getting through water and food much faster rate than I used to. So yes, back to this conversation of tents. Careful where you put them. Use them to build up your stock levels, so that, and keeping them within easy running distance of the south coast or potential spawn points is a good idea. Yeah, because one of the ideas I put a tent to is, if I die, I want my kit as quickly as possible. And I don't mean fancy rifle and big backpack, which of course are nice, but what I'm after is a hatchet and a map and a hunting knife and matches and a compass and maybe a toolbox. Those are the things I put into tents. Yes, occasionally, once we've got all that nicely sorted, then we'll start dropping things like fancy weapons and nice big backpacks when we find them. So, yeah, it's the hard to find survival items. So you'll want them within a couple of kilometres of the south coast. Yeah? Where you might spawn in. Start putting your survival tent up here somewhere. You've got a bloody long run to get to it. Interesting places up here, by the way, for more long-term tents, if you know what I mean. There is, where was it? Trying to find it now. Sort of a rocky outcrop up here somewhere. It was rather interesting. Just north of Lapatino. See, water. Interesting places for tents. You can put them all over. So, thank you very much for watching. Sorry this gameplay hasn't had much structure to it, and it's just mainly been me talking, but there you go. Tents, where to put them, where to find them, where to put them, how to hide them, and of course, how to find other people's. Talk to you later, boys and girls. Talk to you later. Have fun. Bye-bye.